Hey everyone, welcome to DeHaven Family Farm. Thank you for clicking on this video. Today we're going to do a short review of my Lincoln stick welder, otherwise known as a buzz box, and we're going to take a look at some of the basic tools and talk about a few tips and tricks for getting started in welding just to make your life a little easier. So stay tuned. So as we get started with this video, just a quick little bit of background on me. I am not a professional welder by any means. I've been welding for about 4 years now. I started on my own trying to learn how to weld, and I found that I had a lot of questions trying to get started. So what I ended up doing, there was a local Votech school, well, not really local, it was an hour away, but there was a Votech school that offered a night class for welding. I went for almost 2 months, I think it was 3 nights a week, and I got to learn with a very experienced instructor, got to ask a lot of questions, try some different processes. It was a great experience. So when you're watching this video, just know that, you know, not very long ago I was in your shoes getting started with welding, and I don't consider myself a beginner anymore, but I'm absolutely not a professional. I would say I'm sort of in between, you know, if you want to categorize it as like an intermediate, I'm an intermediate welder. But again, getting started, I didn't really have anybody to ask these questions, you know, about welding until I took that class. So I hope that me putting this little video together will sort of help you get started. And so here is my Lincoln stick welder. This is an AC/DC machine. I guess the model number technically is shown on there as AC/DC 225/125. These are commonly known as a buzz box. This machine I've had for over 4 years now, bought it brand new, and I do weld in DC. As you can see, they're DC positive. You can weld with AC. My recommendation getting started, if you're looking to get into welding as not maybe a career path, but something that you're going to do a lot of, just don't even mess with the AC. I had an outlet put in specifically for this welder for the DC, and I actually had the electrician make me up a cord so that I can move this welder. I think it's about a 15-foot cord, so the welder does not have to stay here. My intention is to put it on a little dolly so that I can move it around the garage. So the basics of the machine, down here is your on-off switch. Obviously here you have DC positive, minus, and AC current, and over here adjust your amperage. Overall, this machine has been fantastic. I haven't had one issue with it. I think it's a great entry-level welder. So I would recommend buying one of these over, I know Harbor Freight, some of their welders and things have gotten better. There's a lot of videos out there on those types of welders, but I still slightly question the longevity of how long those welders are gonna last. This machine, when I bought it, I think it was $550 or so, $550 or so roughly. That was delivered right to me, and I just had to have the plug put in. I know this machine 20 years from now is going to be around. My kids can use it if they want. It's just really a good, solid, entry-level machine. So this is what I would recommend if you wanted to get started in welding. So we'll take a look at some of the gear here that we use in stick welding. Now, my recommendation, if you want to get started in welding, start with stick welding. Stick welding is more difficult than MIG welding, and it has a lot of applications that MIG welding does not. But that being said, if you master or get proficient with stick welding, if you switch to MIG, there's no real learning curve there. MIG welding is so much easier. But if you start the other way and you start with MIG and then you try and do stick, a lot of guys get frustrated because it's a lot more difficult. And stick welding can, as long as you have a welder, can pretty much be done anywhere. Whereas the MIG, a lot of times if it's windy outside, it's going to blow your shielding gas away. You won't be able to weld. And so again, I really feel that stick welding is a great way to start. let's look at some of the things we have here. So for stick welding, you're going to have slag. So there's a couple different style chipping hammers, and I know there's more than what I'm showing here. This is the first chipping hammer I started with. So I had this and then my wire brush to clean up my welds. And then I found this guy, which has the wire brush on it, and that's fairly handy. The problem is that I would recommend, if you're going to get one, just get this one and the wire brush, because you see the point on the end of that. That point is very, very useful in chipping slag that is down in little corners and crevices that this guy just does not get into. So getting started, to get one set up, I would pick this guy and just a good, nice wire brush. I mean, this is not an expensive wire brush. This is what I would start with. This is handy to have, but I would start with that. Obviously, you need a nice, good, heavy set of welding gloves. I ordered these at the same time that I ordered the welder. These have been great gloves. I mean, there's a lot of good quality gloves out there, but make sure you get quality ones, because the pieces and things, you know, they get hot while you're welding, and you don't want a thin, chintzy pair of gloves. So this little beanie here, you don't absolutely need one of these. They're not very expensive, but this is nice if you're doing welding where your head is sort of close to your weld. So if you're making a repair on a piece of equipment or a vehicle and you're sort of welding, you know, almost overhead, the sparks are going to come back, and the helmet does not block all the sparks. So this just protects your hair a little bit. These clamps here, they're magnets. It gives you 90s and 45s and all kinds of things. These are not expensive, but when you're starting with scrap pieces, practicing, this works very well to help hold things together. Then, of course, when you start doing fabrication projects, it is invaluable to sort of have another set of hands there. So I would recommend a set of those. Now the helmet. Do not skimp on a helmet. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this Hobart helmet is the best helmet that's out there. Obviously, there's a lot of different ones out there. I will tell you, if you are a beginner, get the self-dimming helmet. Do not get one of the old style ones where you have to flip down the lid and try and see where you're going. Just get one that has the auto dimming on it. And one of the things that I liked about this helmet is you can see the area that you look through from the back side is a nice big wide area. Try not to pick one out that's super tiny, you know, I mean, don't cut too many corners on that. This is a battery powered one. There are some different ones out there. I've actually seen one that has solar panels on it. I don't recommend those because the helmet is very rarely in the sun. So again, good helmet, auto dimming, and you'll be good to go there. So another really super handy thing to have when you're getting started is a welding table. This one was one I bought from Northern Tool. It's just a Clutch brand. It is not a fancy heavy duty table by any means, but has been fantastic to get started with. One of the great things about having a welding table is that you can clamp your ground clamp to the table so that any piece of metal or project that you have going on the table is automatically grounded, and you can just weld right to it. So that means as you get started and you have little scrap pieces that are real small, 3-4 inches long, you're not trying to clamp your ground clamp to those little dinky pieces, because that ground clamp is going to get in the way. So a nice little table like this is fantastic to get started with. And then as you become a little bit more proficient with your welding skills, a great first project is to actually build yourself a nice table. So as we talk about, you know, the gloves and the beanie, another thing to consider is some sort of jacket, or I even have a fire-proof sweatshirt that you're going to want to weld with. There's a lot of materials that will catch on fire faster than you think they will. So some other little things to discuss here. We have, this is like a little soap marking pencil. I guess you could call it a pencil, marker, whatever. It's obviously refillable. This works great when you start doing some small projects and you actually need to mark your metal. These are nice to have around. So when starting with stick welding, I recommend a 70-18 rod, 1/8 inch. that is going to be the most standard rod that you're going to weld with. So I recommend just going ahead and starting with that. There's a lot of different welding rods out there for different applications, but the 7018 is absolutely the most common rod that's used out there for repairs and general fabrication. So that is a good rod to start with. I use the Forney rods. They're a good quality rod, and local place stocks them. So earlier I told you that you know, I'm sort of an intermediate welder, and I took that welding class. This was just a paper that our welding instructor sort of put together and laminated. This is very helpful. It has a lot of different electrodes on the side here, the diameter of the electrode. So we were just talking about 7018, and there is 1/8 inch, and it just gives you a suggested amperage range to start with. So I guess that pretty much concludes this video, guys. I hope that this was helpful to you. Just some basics to get started, just some tips and suggestions. If you have any questions, again, I'm not a professional welder, but if you have any questions about getting started in welding, leave them in the comment section down below, and I'd be happy to answer them. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Please don't forget to comment, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next video, I hope. Thanks for watching.